Good morning, Nat.
Good morning, Darlene. How are you?
Well, how are you doing?
I'm well. I'm well. I'm hoping I'm up in Canada and our spring isn't springing so much. So I'm hoping this weekend or something will come. Like, even if it was warm and rain, it's okay. Yet it's been rain and cold. I'm like, oh my
Well,
God.
come for a visit to Arizona to come visit me. You can come get some sunshine and some flowers anytime you're ready.
Oh, please, please. I need it. I need that vitamin D.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Lift Oneself podcast, where we break mental health stigmas through conversations. I'm your host, Nat, and we dive into topics about trauma and how it impacts the nervous system. Yet we don't just leave you there. We share insights and tools of self-care, meditation, and growth that help you be curious about your own biology. Your presence matters. Please like and subscribe to our podcast. Help our community grow. Let's get into this. Oh, and please remember to be kind to yourself. Welcome to the Lift Oneself podcast, Darlene. I am so thankful you're here with me, and I know it's going to be a wonderful conversation.
Oh, thank you, Nat. It's just a joy to be here with you. I'm honored to be on your podcast.
Will you join me in a meditation so we can ground ourselves in our breath?
I would love that.
And for the listeners, as you always hear me do my spiel, if you're driving or you're doing anything with your visual, please don't close your eyes. I want you to be safe and everybody around you to be safe, yet the other prompts you're able to do. So, Darlene, I'll ask you to get comfortable in your seating and you're going to gently close your eyes. And you're going to begin breathing in and out through your nose. And you're going to bring your awareness to watching your breath go in and out through your nose. You're not going to try and control your breath. You're just going to keep your awareness on watching your breath go in and out, starting to observe the rhythm of it. There may be some sensations or feelings coming up in the body. Let them come up. You're safe to feel. You're safe to let go. Surrender the need to control. Release the need to resist and just be. Be with your breath. Drop into your body. Stay with your breath. There may be thoughts or memories that popped up. It's fine. Don't push it away. Just bring your awareness back to your breath. This is a space of surrender and acceptance. There's nothing you need to push away, nor is there anything that you need to fix. Just be. Be with your breath and drop deeper into your body. Continue staying with your breath. Darlene, I'm going to ask you in your mind to create an intention you want to bring forth in this conversation for the listeners and for ourselves. And when you've created that intention, I'm going to ask you to release it in your mind, allowing it to drop down into your nervous system, down your neck, past your throat, down into your chest, filling your heart and lungs, going further down into your stomach, down into your life force. And while still staying with your breath, allowing that intention to surround you in your energy force. Continue staying with your breath and dropping deeper into your body. Continue staying with your breath. Now, at your own time and at your own pace, you're going to gently open your eyes while still staying with your breath. How's your heart doing?
My heart is, it's truly complex. It's full of joy and gratitude and love and grief. Really, it's open and it's a bit tender.
I love that. I love that you're allowing yourself to feel all the different complexity and feel that it's not just one emotion. There's many different emotions that are dancing all at the same time and can be very confusing at times. Can you let the listeners know who Darlene is?
Sure. Darlene is so many things too, right? Just like the heart. So right now I'm a care provider, first and foremost, to my husband of 67. He's 67. He's got early Alzheimer's. I'm a mom of two daughters and sort of an adopted mom to my husband's two boys. I'm a daughter, sister, friend, teammate, leader, co-author of a book, 20-year Navy veteran, leader in the technology space, and a stem cell technology consultant.
That's a lot. It's very colorful. I love
Feels
it.
like a lot.
It's a lived life. I used to, in my previous life, I worked with national defense. So I understand a little bit of military culture and environments, and Navy is very interesting to say the least. It can be pretty brutal with some of their mates and stuff like that, with the high expectations of getting things done where it serves good in some aspects, yet it can be very destructive in other aspects. Now, I want to tap into the part where you are caregiving for your husband right now. And I don't know if you have given yourself language for this. And some listeners, it may give them language that you are going through grief while somebody is still alive.
I am, because the husband that I was, we've been together 20 years and married 17, but my husband that I married is not with me anymore, right? He declined very quickly when he got his early Alzheimer's diagnosis. What normally would take 13 years of time, he declined in 2. And so he's age 5 cognitively. And he has, so I've transitioned from being a wife to a mom to my husband. And that I am still in the middle of grieving that, but I almost don't have time. Like I literally had a doctor say to me, you need to make time to grieve, to give yourself the space, because I was either working or taking care of Jim, or trying to do, or working out or doing the things. And I said, well, I'm exercising every day, I'm meditating every day, I'm eating healthy, I'm drinking water with electrolytes. Like we took out all of the bad foods and things forever ago. What more do you want me to do? And they were like, well, how much time do you have not taking care of Jim? And that was not a lot. That was a couple hours, maybe a week. And are you in therapy? Are you in an Alzheimer's support group? No. So they said, you need to do that, because you can't grieve if you don't have the time and space, as you talked about so frequently, to give yourself. So I have done that. I know Jim is in a program where he goes at 10 and he comes back at 4. And that has given me a whole new world of space. I am seeing a therapist. I am in an Alzheimer's support group. So I'm trying to do those things that gives me that opportunity to think and feel and honor wherever that is at that point in time. And it is a roller coaster ride. There are days that it's very joy filled, and I'm fortunate that he's the sweetest man on the planet. He's an angel, which is what makes it really hard to watch him of all the people, like I have two ex-husbands, I would, that from karma perspective, this should be happening to them, right? That I have a lot of trauma from the marriages there. So this came out of the blue. We have had the most beautiful marriage of anyone I know. Honestly, he is. I don't know a marriage that was better. He has always been just darling, and so I am going through that loss. And you're right. It's in the middle of him being alive in front of me. It's just not the same person, which changes everything from uh, his flirt. He's still flirting with me, but it feels inappropriate now, right? There's just all of these things that are complex.
Yeah. What I can sense and feel, Darlene, is the thing that has been missing in the language is you're not feeling your emotions.
I think I'm trying to give myself the space to do that, but I'm a very happy person in general, by nature, and I do a lot. As you heard, I do a lot of things to take care of myself because I learned that the first the first couple rounds, right? My first couple of marriages were emotionally and physically abusive, and I got four autoimmune disorders as a result of them, and PTSD. And I had to learn stress management techniques and a lot of things to just survive it. And so I understand taking care of my health, and I understand I'm in the middle of chronic stress, and I understand I need to do something every day to just be okay. And there are days when I don't feel like I feel enough of what's going on. I haven't had the big cry, the one where I bawl and I'm like, oh my gosh, how could this happen? I haven't had that yet. It might happen today on your podcast if we're not careful here, because I know you evoke tears in everyone. But I will say that, but I'm working to honor wherever I am and however I am, and my therapist has said, I want you to notice if you get to right here, and then are you stuffing it, or can you let it out? She wants to be able to first start by identifying that sort of thing. So you're absolutely right. If you move too quickly through life, you don't take the time to really feel enough. So I am trying to slow things down in that regard.
Yeah. It tried to come out just when you spoke about your husband being an angel, and then feeling the vulnerability of seeing your experience, feeling your experience, more looking at him rather than looking at yourself.
Yeah.
And that's why you shut it right down right away.
Yeah, I did. Well, we're on a podcast.
Exactly. And I understand that.
A couple of times that I have really cried, I was looking at memory care facilities, which are horrific to go look at as a 59-year-old looking for a 67-year-old, right? Because everyone in there looks like they're 100. I know they're probably in their 80s, but it's just a really hard place to consider putting your husband in. When they would ask, twice I've had them say, well, tell me about your husband. That was really it, right? Because he is so amazing. So you're right, that will that's the space that kind of gets me. I'm grateful that he is so fabulous. I think this in some ways might be easier if he wasn't so sweet and so kind. If I could say, oh, this is done, we're putting you in a place, like, this is just I'm not putting up with that kind of crap, like if it was in any way ugly. But he's just a very sweet, wanting to do and help any way he can. He just can't even open a banana. Like he literally opened it from the middle out. Not, who does that? So can't get a glass of ice water without specific instructions. So that's where we are.
And you're getting to learn life through a new experience. So it's hitting a lot of parts where you think life has to be a certain way, and he's engaging you to do it differently.
Very differently. Every day, very differently.
And it's
Yeah.
exhausting.
It is exhausting because it's sort of, I mean, I remember parenting toddlers. It's very much like that, right? We're gonna make you breakfast, make sure you get dressed properly, make sure you've showered, make sure you brush your teeth with toothpaste, not shaving cream. Like, these are things you have to worry about, right? Feed, make a morning protein smoothie, pack your lunch, get you off to school or work or whatever we want to call it, and it's really very much like that.
What do you do for play with him?
So we go for walks and we work out together. We watch movies. We don't travel anymore. It's not good for him. It's very disorienting and not helpful. We do puzzles and listen to music, and we're very affectionate. So we dance in the kitchen. I mean, we just do silly things sometimes, because you can be silly, and it's important to be silly. And there to in one day, typically I would say I don't want to cry around my husband. But there was a day when I was just feeling it pretty powerfully, and I just said, I just need a little cry. And I just hugged him and cried. I don't think he really understood. I don't think and then I kind of was able to move on. But I was particularly feeling the loss that day.
Yeah. I think, unfortunately, we get this indoctrination that we're not allowed to cry in our relationships, as if it's meaning something of a negative thing, where it's like, well, this is our humanness.
It is. It is. I don't ever want him to think I'm crying about him. Like, I don't want him to, I don't know whether he can even process at that maturity anyway. And when you're a child, you think the whole world is about you. And so I don't want him to think it is about him, even if it is.
And I
you
think
know?
that's what's lacking sometimes in our communication, even with young ones,
Mhm.
because we got separated from our instincts, that we went into a room and we could see something was wrong, yet the adults would say, no, no, there's nothing wrong. So you started not listening to your intuition. You were
Yeah.
reading the room correctly, that there were emotions going on, yet the adults didn't think you had the capacity to, navigate in that. And then it's like, well, how am I supposed to learn to engage with my emotions if there's only certain emotions that can be expressed and other emotions are considered, and like taboo, I should say. And it's like, okay, well, how do we model these things? And they're uncomfortable because it goes against a narrative that we could have been indoctrinated generation after generation, especially for women. As soon as women show some tears, and
Right.
you were in the military, show tears, oh my gosh, that's annihilation. You got to be powerhouse. If you show any kind of tears and you're emotional, you're not logical, yada yada. Where it's like, actually, when women express their tears, they actually can come to some solution bases and not have to be that powerhouse of destroy and get this done and everything else. And it's like, how do we relate to ourselves in these shadow parts? Because when the tears come up, it's a shadow part that we've pushed down for so long. And like your therapist said, like when it's coming up here, are you pushing it right back down, or can you let it visit? Can you, let it sit around for a bit? And that's that shadow work. So when people are like, oh, the shadow work, they think it's all negative. And it's like, well, actually, it's your sensitive parts. And it's exactly like the Wizard of Oz. There's this big voice that you're intimidated by, and you're like, oh my gosh. Yet if you allow curiosity, you can see behind the big loud voice is this little human that wants to be able to express, but it doesn't have the ability because we've been so conditioned to shut down certain types of emotions. And I'm thankful that you're giving a different story, because not many people can say like, oh, the Alzheimer's is a joyful thing. Like, it's frustrating in certain parts, but Alzheimer, it can bring out the defense, and they're very afraid, feeling unsafe, and then become combative and difficult to be in this adult body with the curiosity and mind of a young one. And then
Right.
that becomes very conflicting and everything else. So you're shining a different light to the story. And I'm very thankful for that, because not many people have the mindset to be engaged with this in the way that you are being engaged, in the way you're telling the story.
Yeah.
Can you let us know about this stem cell and what that looks like and what it's about? Because
Yeah.
I'm sure some people are like, oh, stem cell, what's that?
Yeah. So it starts back right when the diagnosis occurred. I did a ton of research. I'm kind of the person that I'm going to dig in, and I have been seeing functional medicine doctors and integrative health physicians for 20 years, really, maybe more actually, because of the autoimmune, right? There's just nothing, there's nothing that you can do, chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, all of those things that I don't even know. I don't even know that Western medicine knows what the heck they are. I think they're just labels, and I'm not going to claim them, even though I was once upon a time diagnosed with even POTS, actually, postural orthostatic tachycardia. So lots of things. So I've been looking at alternate therapies for quite some time and doing a lot of research myself, and there really wasn't anything for my husband. First of all, he has the APOE4 gene type, so he has Alzheimer's from both parents. He's also got early Alzheimer's, which is why it's so aggressive, and the decline occurred so quickly. And we everything was pointing to the power of stem cells. And so at great cost, we went out of country to get IV stem cells 4 different times in a year, every quarter, at $10,000 an IV. He did it and I did it. I was hoping to just stop passing out because of the POTS. That was the biggest thing for me. And really it did not help. And it was sort of heartbreaking that it didn't help. We did microbiome testing, we did gene mapping, we have an infrared sauna, we did hyperbaric chamber several times a week for a month, hydrogen water, ozone therapy. We followed the Dr. Bredesen protocol, which I really recommend anybody that has Alzheimer's follow the Dr. Bredesen protocol. Daily strength training and aerobic training and sleep protocol that included things like getting your eyes on the morning sun, stop eating 3 hours before bed, red lights in the bedroom or the bathroom, so we're not, shining lights on ourselves as we get ready for bed. Really cool. All the things you could possibly do. And still the decline at the point of time when I was introduced to this new technology, he was really no longer himself. He was kind of a zombie. He slept the day away, 3.5 hours of sleeping, would fall asleep at 7 as well, was disengaged from conversation, not even trying. He's a very funny person. He loves making people laugh. And that is who he is. That's his personality. And so he wasn't even trying to make people laugh anymore. He would ask me the same question 7 times in just a couple minutes. And it was really rough. I had really lost him. So when I had a friend say there is a technology that helps you activate your own stem cells, I was like, I'm in. I'm in. I didn't have to know there were 90 clinical studies. I didn't have to know there were over 300 Olympic athletes, including Michael Phelps or that Tom Brady and the Kansas City Chiefs were. I didn't need to know any of these things to just dive in, because I was like, it only needs to work for one person for me, right? It's great that it works for a lot of them. And it's great that it's their double-blind placebo-controlled studies, but I just needed to work for one person. So we began, there's this tiny little quarter-sized patch. It works, we talked about needing vitamin D, like getting out in the sun and having your sun sends a signal through your skin, hey, make vitamin D. So it works just like that, only you have light inside of you. So if I looked at you with night vision goggles on, you have light inside of you, and this little thing acts a little bit like a mirror, reflecting your own light back into you at a very specific wavelength that elevates a copper peptide called GHKCU, which is actually an amazing peptide that's been studied for 50 years. And there's just beautiful studies on the benefits that we can talk about later. But one of the biggest benefits is it increases stem cells. It increases and activates your stem cells, which I didn't know. When you're 30, half of your stem cells are dormant. When you're 60, they're almost all dormant. So we're aging faster and we're healing slower. And that's, I did know, I learned enough in my studies that they are they're the thing that made us, right? The pluripotent stem cells can become anything from bone to muscle to cartilage to fat to brain to lungs to liver to kidney, anything that your body needs. So when we started patching a year ago, in the very first day, in the very first week, my husband stopped napping. He did not take a 3.5-hour nap. He started talking like a dam broke, and he had 2 years worth of stuff to say. He was with it in a way that, he wasn't asking me the same questions over and over again. He was responding. He was funny again. He was back to his personality. He was funny and flirty. And we have Zoom calls with my brother-in-law and sister-in-law every other weekend. Back then, now it's every week. And they were just like, whoa, what? I mean, Jim used to just be silent. And all of a sudden now he's like coming in with zingers and they're like, what is going on? And I said, we have started activating his stem cells, and they are just, it was just crazy. And over time, other things got better. So he got back the ability to whistle and to drum. And he also regained his sense of smell, which he had lost 15 years ago. His blood pressure dropped 37 points. His bald spot began closing in and hair grew in. He has he recorded his best sleep ever, where we had been struggling to get the deep sleep. And so he just really improved, and those things have stayed. In the last year, he's still awake and alert and articulate, and he doesn't get the right word. I'm not saying he's cured at all. I am saying that things woke up for him, and I got my husband back, his personality, and he's no longer that zombie, and he is active, and he's able to go to a day program where I don't know that he could have done that before, because I think he would have slept through it, quite honestly. So really amazing things for him, and then really amazing things for me. I was depressed. I wanted to cry every single day a year ago. I was this close to tears all the time, and just having a hard time even having the patience to be a care provider. I had a broken foot. I had a sprained ankle, and I needed surgery, and I had 5 months of pain with that. And when that happened, it really took me down, because all my coping mechanisms, my pickleball 3 times a week, my walks around the neighborhood, my exercising the way I did, all of those, the social outlets, I was sort of like sitting in a chair. So it was a really tough time. And so to be able to put on patches that took me out of pain immediately, that have no drugs in them, no contraindications, it's just my body moving energy. It was really, I actually didn't even believe it. Quite honestly, the day I put these patches on and my pain went away, I was so skeptical. Okay, this must be the day. 5 months in, I'm finally at the day where I lose pain. But you wear the patches 12 hours on, and then you take them off after 12 hours, leave them off for 12 hours, and then you put them on again 12 hours. You don't want your body to get used to the signal where it stops responding. When I took it off 15 minutes later, my ankle was back to throbbing again. I had all this energy in the very first week. I've never been one to like cooking. I just really didn't, but we had stopped sugar and white flour and, any kind of oil, unless olive oil or avocado oil or, coconut oil. We were really organic, clean eating. So it almost, you have to cook, like you can't buy that stuff. Right. So I didn't like it. And this first week of patching, I'm in the kitchen, I'm cooking up a storm. I am cooking up more than I had cooked in a year. And I'm like, what is going on? Like, why did I hate cooking? And I think it was just that I didn't have the energy to cook. So I had other things. I had rosacea that doctors for years had not been able to really resolve for me. My skin was always on fire. Even the most expensive creams from Nordstrom's would just like feel like fire on my skin. Um, all of these things just started to clear up for me. I stopped passing out. I no longer have to take this prescribed prescription medicine called fludrocortisone, which was intended to increase my blood pressure so that I didn't pass out from my POTS. I don't have to take that anymore. And I not only do I not have to take it, I can do things that I couldn't do before. I can do squats. I used to do one squat and it would be like blackout, I'm out, right? I can do these things now and I can exercise hard. And the other thing that happened for me is that I stopped stress eating. So there's a calmness that, it really has this effect of, I talked about relieving my depression. That happened in like 2 or 3 weeks. It just elevated my mood, calmed my nervous system. It gave me endless more patience. I mean, like night and day. It's hard to even describe it. And so what that also meant was that I was no longer stress eating. I was no longer, standing in front of the refrigerator, not really hungry, but just wanting comfort, right? Or the pantry. And so I stopped stress eating. I balanced my hormones. And so I lost 20 pounds in time and not trying really. My skin became really soft. I stopped having regular headaches. I used to never go anywhere without my migraine medicine because you never know when a headache was going to come on. I would have it in the car. I would have it in my purse. I would have it in everything always. And it was not long ago, somebody else was here and had a headache. And I said, oh, I have really good medicine somewhere. I had no idea where it was. Like, I don't even, like, I haven't laid eyes on it in a year. So all of these amazing things and also fewer body aches and ability to work out hard. Part of my fibromyalgia was that I couldn't work out too hard without having just tremendous body aches, like needing 3 days to recover. And I'd have to really take it easy and be gentle. And now I can work out really, really hard. And so I'm gaining muscle and I'm getting healthier. And I really, I don't think I have autoimmune disorders anymore. I really don't think I have any of that. I think I had cellular dysfunction and that the stem cells have fixed those things. So one of the best things that this can do for you is in just 6 weeks of wearing the stem cell activation patch, your cardiovascular system becomes 8 weeks younger. And I think that just revamped my cardiovascular system so that I'm getting enough blood to the brain. So it's really, and I got to watch that happen for me, but I also got to watch, there's actually studies like one that has some EEGs, and I love this stuff because it's very, for the people that have the scientific mind and are a little skeptical like me, and really kind of thought of energy medicine as a little woo-woo, or certainly light therapy, although light therapy has really been around 5,000 years. I don't know why I would think that people know that, red, blue light therapy or infrared saunas or all of these things, they know that, but still, it was, even as alternative as I am, this was a little out there for me. But when you can look at an EEG and you see the red and the inflammation and the hypercoherence, not good communication between 2 hemispheres of the brain, and then 3 weeks after wearing the patch, you find that it is completely changed in the mapping, and the colors of different people not only report that they're feeling lower anxiety and more improved focus and improved memory, but then you see it, and then 6 weeks later it's a whole new map. And the study actually proved that there was cell and nerve regeneration, that there was elevation of this copper peptide, that there was decreased brain inflammation and improved coherence and improved memory and cognition and improved task processing. And I got to watch that happen in my husband in a week. Like it was both so exciting and frustrating, because now where had this been? Like, if we would have known about this 3 years ago, 4 years ago, we would not be where we are today. My husband would not be 5. And I know that. I really do. I don't know that we have the time. I don't know what is possible going forward. but I know that getting and starting this earlier would have been so much better. And so I was a little bit mad about it. And I started talking to my family, right? My mom, my dad, you need to improve your bone density and your muscle mass and stability because you're both fall hazards. They're 83 and they're 88. And honestly, like I'm dealing with, my husband's forecasted lifespan is 3 years at the outset, but possibly a year and a half. If he progresses at the rate, and the doctor at the Barrows Neurological Center said, expect him to progress at the same rate he has declined to date. So I'm like, Mom and Dad, you're 83 and 88. I can't deal with all of you like at once. So you need to take care of yourself. We need to activate your stem cells, and we need to make sure you're healthy. Because I can only do one of these at a time right now. And I know that that sounds really selfish, but I just need everybody to be okay, you know?
Oh, wow. Oh,
So we started with them, and my sister has had 6 years of microscopic colitis and did steroids, and she did IV stem cells and she did antibiotics and everything. Nothing worked. And in just 3 weeks of an anti-inflammation patch and the stem cell activation patch, her microscopic colitis went away, her plantar fasciitis went away. So as I began to talk to people about this, and more people, my cousin with fibromyalgia, my aunt with depression, all of these things, people began to experience these amazing results. I was driven to help others because it, as I mentioned to you, it's been the silver lining of this journey for me. The ability to help others optimize their mental health and their physical health without drugs, without anything that has, there's no contraindications, that people don't need a prescription for, that can get mailed to their doorstep. It is life-changing and transformational. And I get texts every day that lift my heart and spirit and soul because they are feeling better. They're not in pain. They have more energy. They are getting better sleep. They're seeing their A1C drop. They're seeing their cholesterol. They don't need to be on their cholesterol medicine. They don't need to be on their blood pressure medicine. They don't need to be on their thyroid medicine. It is really just so remarkable that you kind of think, why isn't this on the front page of every newspaper? And why isn't this being touted in the television? And how is this so hidden? So it's frustrating that it's so hidden. And unfortunately, I think big pharma and television and the government are all like bundled together. And when you get to the root cause, when you allow your body's innate wisdom to do the healing by actually activating the things that heals your body, you don't need these medicines that are keeping big pharma in business. So it's really been a phenomenal journey. And I would also just say this, that as much healing as the patches have done for my body, the community of people that do this, that are stem cell technology consultants, they're so giving and generous and beautiful. They care so much about other people, that community of people wanting to do something bigger than themselves and for other people, that has been as good for my heart and soul as anything has. I have this huge group of friends, guys, girls, a lot of women. I've been surrounded by men in my workforce my whole life. 20 years in the Navy, all men, particularly. Technology. I mean, when I left the Navy, I'm like, I'm going to go into a field with more women. No, I ended up in technology, and it's mostly men. And so it's been really so wonderful to be in a community of both more fully equally and have that support and know I could pick up the phone with any one of them and that they're dear friends now. And even just talking on podcasts, in preparation, we talked about, I've listened to at least 11 of your podcasts. That has been good for my soul. Like, there are so many powerful podcasts out there, and making these connections with people that I just become friends with because we open up our heart and soul to each other, right? And we share very vulnerable things. And so it's just been a real amazing journey of community as well. That was a very long answer.
You know,
So
it's exactly what's needed. What you explained and what I provide also is that regulation of the nervous system. That's what that's doing. It's the peptide is rewiring the nervous system so the four F's aren't being activated, the fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, and pumping your whole body with a bunch of cortisol and adrenaline. And now it's okay, let's create a homeostasis to the best of its ability as it keeps adapting. And you know, I understand that you want your husband the way he used to be. Okay, I understand that. I get that. If you can allow yourself, what is your, actually, let me ask you this. What is your relationship with death?
well, I don't know that I know. I don't know that I know. I do think I'm spiritual. So I'm not afraid of death. I'm not afraid of death even for him. Um, I I'm afraid of suffering for him, but I'm not afraid of death for him. Um, I'm not even afraid of loneliness for me. Like I'm not afraid of that process. I just when I've gone into facilities and I've looked at what the the last stage of this journey looks like, and their infant, literally 16 weeks of unable to hold up their head, unable to move their body. That is just hard to see. I just hope that he doesn't have to go through all the stages, um, because I feel like that's very painful. Um, but I don't know that I can answer your question. I've had friends pass, but not really dear close friends. So this will be, my introduction.
Yeah. And that's, you know, it can be very challenging. People want to say they're not afraid of death rather than say, yeah, I'm scared. I'm scared of the unknown. I'm scared of what that experience, I'm scared of the pain it's going to cause. Because grief, you know, death causes pain. But we are a society that, you know what, we're anti-pain. No, 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 don't talk about pain or anything. Where it's like, okay, let me walk through this. Not try to act like, oh, I'm not afraid. Like, no, there's fear in there because our nervous system has one function, don't die. So the nervous
Right.
system gets activated all the time. So being able to walk through that and see, oh, wait a minute, I've been kind of given the illusion that death is final. Yet you said in your language you're spiritual, and you're seeing with the stem cells, energy doesn't die, it transforms.
Exactly.
So we
I
haven't been
totally,
taught about the other side of love.
yes, yes, absolutely, absolutely. It's not like I
It's,
don't
is
feel like
scary.
death is. I don't feel like death is is the spirit. I think is will continue, even just his soul. All of that is protected. It's really what you're talking about more than not is the loss of that person in front of you every day the way they were before, which I'm already in the middle of, right? But um I really just again don't want him to experience pain. There was a while that he was going through, a couple of weeks of every day just wanting to end his life, just not wanting to be on the planet, not wanting to be a burden, aware enough that he did not want this. And I would spend hours talking him in off that ledge. And that ripped my guts out. That's maybe the hardest thing I've gone through is just that daily for 2 weeks straight. And then we added some psilocybin mushrooms, and we did some things to try to elevate mood, and succeeded, so that he's now he's in a happier place. And so I can be in a happier place. But I agree with you. There is going to be pain. I embrace it. I know I have to go through it. If I don't go through it now, it's just really going to pop out later. Like it's just, I do get that. Like it's not something you can skip in this process. And I'm
Yeah.
okay with that. I will honor that. That's, you you have to have pain if you have love and you lose a loved one. You have to. Well, I'm working hard on that right now, and living in the present, and just today and this moment, and appreciating who he is in this moment, how he is in this moment. I'm grateful, especially I'm in a few support groups online that, not all people with Alzheimer's are as sweet,
No.
and trying to be helpful and loving, and we're very affectionate people. I think love, I think touch may be his love language. So there's just constant holding of hands and all of that, and I can be grateful for that.
I hope you're grateful for yourself also, Darlene.
Thank you. I'll have to think about that. I am I grateful for myself? I am proud of myself, going through this. I feel like I'm a very good person. I'm more grateful for all the people around me, I think, and the things that I am able to, the support that I get. I do give support back too. But thank you. I will work on that.
That's somewhere. You just got to see that it's been all external, where it's like, wait, you're living this experience, and if I can keep occupied with the other people, I'm not feeling my vulnerability, the depths of really feeling that intimacy, being
Yeah.
really intimate with yourself. Because people think intimacy is just sexual, and it's like, that's just the top layer. Intimacy is much more profound than that.
Didn't you
How
call
much
it
like,
once intimacy? I think you called it that one time in a podcast. Intimacy, I think I heard you
yeah,
say one.
intimacy, yeah,
I like that. I thought that was really clever, and I was like, wow, that's pretty powerful.
it is. Because a lot of times we're not seeing ourselves.
Yeah.
We're not allowing ourselves to feel the emotions and see the two, like see your husband, but also see yourself in it. We've been taught and kind of trained, serve others. You're
Yeah.
nobody. Where it's like, what do you mean I'm nobody? And I understand that, because you don't, like, for the ego, the defense mechanisms, not to get super inflated. Yet once you can understand the defense mechanisms, then you're like, no, I got to pay attention to in here to make sure that I don't project out there.
Yeah. Right. Right. And I will say, I'm one of the things I am so grateful for, is that I had such a great upbringing and such great parents. That gave me insight into what a marriage was supposed to look like. And when I did not have that, because narcissists are slippery suckers, right? They are so good at masking their true selves. Initially, I knew this is not what it's supposed to look like. This is not what I'm supposed to be experiencing, and this is not healthy and okay. But I guess I ought to be grateful for the, I don't know with the first one if I would have gotten out without the physical abuse, because I don't know that I recognized the emotional abuse while I was in it. Easy to see it afterwards, but in it, I was just sort of fighting for my voice, and so many things. So in some ways, I have one of the greatest gifts that my current husband Jim has given to me is the gift he gave to our daughters, who were from my second husband, who was a narcissist and obsessive compulsive personality disorder too. And that is the gift of showing what a loving marriage looks like, what it looks like to honor your wife and to be respectful and to have this sort of very beautiful, loving relationship. And I've had a daughter say, I would never have gotten married, I don't think, if I hadn't seen your marriage with Jim and what that looks like, and that there are good men in the world,
Yeah.
I mean, but it was also a double-edged sword, because my dad was such a great man with all this great character and integrity, and treated my mom beautifully with such respect, and modeled it all, that when I was first dating, it didn't ever occur to me that all men weren't like that. Like, I just had no idea that there were liars and schemers and narcissists. Like, I just didn't know at all.
Yeah, that's the thing I think sometimes where, that's where I say everybody wants to create this pristine kind of life and make it look so unicorns and rainbows and everything's peaceful and we're Mary Poppins and we're jumping on beds and just lovely, where it's like, yeah, but the real world isn't like that. Like there's lions and tigers and bears and things that go on, and not everybody had an environment like you did. So then you understand, well, they're going to treat people a certain way. Because once you get more profound of seeing like the spectrum of it, you're like, okay, it's teaching everyone that unfortunately we have this thing that we think everybody thinks like us or feels like us or experiences life like us. And then we have to see like, no, not everybody sees the world like we do or had the same experiences. And then that shapes our nervous systems in different ways. So I know the listeners are like, okay, enough. You talked about this stem cell research and these peptides and all of these things that did great benefits. Are you able to let the listeners know where they can find you, Darlene,
Oh,
and where they can
sure.
find the stem cell and also your book?
Oh, also my book. So I would never, ever have written a chapter of a book, except I had a podcaster who said, Darlene, please, I don't even want to publish our podcast. I want you to write this. I want you to be an author in my book. And would you do that? And I said, okay. A lot of people will say that's very cathartic. It was not. It was not. It was not fun to kind of go all the way back and speak to all of that. It's not even fun to read it, actually, for me, but it has the silver lining. So the book is called Become Empowered, Echoes of Grace and Strength, Real Life Stories of Women's Triumphant Transformation and Triumph. It was published just this month and it became a bestseller already. So I'm really pleased about that. People can reach me on my website, which is iamreverseaging.com. So that's IAMREVERSEAGING.com. And on that website, they can see the patent. They can see 90 clinical studies. They can see little videos on how the patch works. They can buy the patches. They can reach out to me. I would actually prefer they reach out to me because I would tell people, if you have any issues, you really need two different patches, the stem cell activation patch and the anti-inflammation patch. Not necessarily forever do you need the anti-inflammation, but issues equate to inflammation. So there's just so much. There's before and after pictures. There's doctors talking. There's more information than you can possibly get through, and it can be a little overwhelming. And that's why I would rather someone just reach out and let me just simplify it for you and guide you through the process. And really, the only thing they need to do is drink water. Drink water because you're going to detox. It's going to elevate your glutathione. Which is your body's master antioxidant and detoxifier. So that's really the only requirement. And it's so affordable. We're talking where I spent $10,000 in an IV for one of us. The stem cell activation patch is $99 for a month supply. It's so affordable. And I love that because it ought to be something. There isn't anyone that wouldn't benefit. The only people that have to be very careful are people who have had an organ transplant, because their immune systems are being suppressed typically with medicines. And this is going to elevate your immune system. So you just need to hold hands with a doctor and make sure that it's not elevating the immune system too much. And maybe you don't even want the stem cell activation patch. Maybe you just want the anti-inflammation patch or something like that. So I've worked with people like that too. So yeah, that's the place that they can reach me, is that IamReverseAging.com website.
Do you guys have stories of people with cancer?
Yes. Oh, amazing. I actually have a friend, end stage Agent Orange veteran, leukemia, literally had sold his cows He was a farmer at that point in his life and had was in his deathbed, only able to move around with a wheelchair or a walker, round the clock pain meds, and got the patches. In 3 days was out of bed, feeling so good, out of pain. And in 2 weeks was traveling, gave away his walker, gave away his wheelchair, has watched his white cell count improve dramatically, and bought back his cows, is now living life with a very high quality. They were at the point in time, Nat, where they were saying to him, we're going to give you this drug. It's going to kill you, but it's going to improve your quality of life while you go through the process of dying. That's where he was. And Robert is now living a very high quality of life, feeling great. So yes, there are lung cancer stories. There's probably not a thing that I don't have a testimonial on. I can't think of, I mean, from heart to lungs to brain to gut to, skin to you name it. It's just, even autism. My dear friend who introduced me to these has a daughter with a rare genetic disorder. She was really 16 years old, but academically kindergarten, and very combative, very combative. Just nothing was easy. This child could not be left alone for 1 minute. And in just, I think it was 11 days, on the 11th day, she saw a different child. She did not have to give her the ADHD medicine. She was focused. She was able to, she actually like made a little meal, cleaned it up, was reading. She had never seen her read in her entire life, had this calm presence. And the tutor was just like, wow, I don't know what's going on, but she's doing great. And they tested her at the 15-day mark. And her, the best math score she'd ever gotten was 51. She got 100. And instead of being kindergarten, at 5 weeks, they tested her and she was now upper 3rd grade, lower 4th grade. That's 5 weeks. And a year, I think it was 10 months later, they tested and she had the executive reasoning of a 16-year-old, which is not supposed to change. Her executive reasoning apparently doesn't change, but hers did. And the tester was like, I don't understand. This wasn't even registering, a year ago. So this is a child who's now talking about living on their own, very, has learned how to count money, has just been able to grow so much and is able to be left alone. And which of course completely changed their mom's experience, right? That mom's life has completely changed too. And we've got stories of MS, Parkinson's. My dear friend with Parkinson's tremored since she was 5 years old, violent tremors in just 2 weeks on the anti-inflammation patch, and the stem cell activation patch stopped tremoring. So, I mean, the stories are just so miraculous as to be almost unbelievable. And I know that there are people that are listening that are saying, I just don't believe that. And I totally get that. Like, I totally understand. Like, I didn't either. I really didn't either. But if you're the person that wants to dive into all the studies, you can see all 90 clinical studies on the website. And if you're the person who wants to listen to testimonials, there's a bunch of those. And if you're the person who is just like, you know what, it only needs to work for me. It really only needs to work for you. And it's not a matter of if it's going to work for you. It's just a matter of when you're going to notice it and what you're going to feel, because you can't tell your stem cells where to go. They're going to go where they need to go, the most important place. And I like to say, like, I want all my husband's stem cell activity to go right to his brain, and the whole system that's going to improve is the Alzheimer's. But he was a naval aviator of 30 years and landed on an aircraft carrier 1,200 times. And they may say, your husband spent a few days at the officers club in the bar, and we got to start with his liver. I don't know where the stem cells are going to go. So, but they are in there making a difference. And it's really, I think it's the most amazing investment anybody could ever do for themselves, is to try it. There is a money back guarantee. So it's not like you're risking anything even.
Thank you so much for, sharing the personal story and also the triumph and where there's light. And again, being able to use your own biology without, because I was asked this morning, I was on a podcast and they were like, okay, well, when you had the lesions in your brain, would you say modern medicine helped you or traditional? And I don't even know why they call meditation and all these things traditional, because it's like
Yeah,
been
that's
here for like
the
before
oldest
modern
medicine
medicine.
ever, right?
Exactly. Or not traditional, but alternative medicine. I'm like, how is this alternative?
That's
Um,
right.
so it's like, I'm like, it's not one or the other. Like they both were needed. So
Mm.
it's really having to come out of this all or nothing mentality, and medication is needed for certain aspects. I just, if we can come into the language, like when I ask people, I'm like, it's not asking how many people are on drugs. It's asking how many are not on any kind of medication that don't even need a simple Tylenol.
Yeah. Yeah. And the problem is that most of those things are just masking symptoms. They're never getting to the root cause. And that's the problem. I mean, at least one of the things I absolutely love, and I know I've heard you say that like they never really did figure out what was going on with you. One of the things I love about these patches is that you don't really need to know. You don't, there's no, nobody has to put a label on it. Nobody has to tell you exactly what happened or what went wrong. You don't have to talk about it. You just patch and the magic happens. And so I think of myself a little bit like a light warrior in that regard, that I'm not only hopefully sharing some hope and light, but helping people find that light within them and tap into it to improve whatever it is. I mean, I have a doctor friend, I love her to death. She's like, I don't really have anything wrong with me. But she had a daughter with a brain bleed. And so she started the patches just so that she could test them out before putting them on her daughter. Her daughter had had a horrible incident with a horse, and it was bad. Her head was sort of knocked against a steel pipe, and she had bleeding and neck injury and coma for a long time. And she wasn't able to see, and she wasn't able to think, and they're like, look, we're gonna have to hold her back because she can't go to school and she can't study. And she's I think 13 or 14 and 6 foot tall. So this was not actually optimal to have her held back either. And the mom started patching, and she's like, oh, my back pain is gone, and actually I don't need my thyroid medicine anymore, and I'm dropping weight, and all of these things are happening. So then her daughter, the first night patching, her daughter slept through the night for the first time ever. And then her daughter started to improve so dramatically they didn't have to hold her back, and she was able to read again, and her vision improved, and all of these things occurred for her so that she could kind of now she's back to normal. And they had tried all the other things, like they had tried hyperbaric chamber, they had tried Western medicine's approach. There just really wasn't anything out there. And that's why I love that this is your own body finding the answers to whatever it is that's going on in there. Because we doctors play God in trying to go in and figure it out, and I just don't think that they're that good. I just don't think they're that good at it. I appreciate them, and if I break my arm or leg, I'm going to go to the hospital. But for chronic, or for the bigger issues of our autoimmune or our health, not sickness, I think that we have to look at other options.
Yeah, it's all nervous system. Yet when I would ask the people, they were like, that's too complex. And then when I'd ask about nutrition, can't patent that. So here's some medication. I'm like, there's stuff going on in the nervous system that we need to really recognize, and what trauma does and how it reshapes the nervous system. And then, like autoimmunes, it's like your immune system is attacking itself. It's like,
Yeah.
well, why would it do that? Like, what is in there that's causing this signaling? And then, I don't know if you've ever heard of Cambo. Have you ever
Well,
heard of that? Cambo?
Cambo, no.
No. So it's a secretion from an Amazon frog, and it's peptides and amino acids. So you put it on, you burn a layer of your skin. I did it twice. It's not fun. It's not painful. It's just not fun. And then the peptides go into your body and like rewire. So you're purging. So you have to drink a lot of water before, because you're
Wow.
going to be purging, either throwing up or having bowel movements.
Yeah.
And then after that, like there's a clearing, like I felt a clearing inside my body of energy and stuff. And my sons were like, "You're very calm." I'm like, "Yeah, yeah." Like, so
Yeah.
it makes you feel very helpless going through the process because there's a surrendering and letting these things find their way. And it's like, it's part of nature. Like, and we forget that the human body is made up of nature.
Yeah, I mean, the good news is that you can Google PubMed, you can Google GHKCU. So you can see the studies that are anti-cancer and the resetting of programmed cell, actually it resets programmed cell death of cancer cells. But it doesn't affect the healthy cells, and it even repairs damaged DNA and resets genes to protect against cancer. In fact, it resets 4,000 genes in the first 24 hours of wearing the patch. So that in and of itself is huge, but you can also see the tissue repair in the liver. And people have been getting GHKCU injections. There's a doctor I heard talking about it that said she was giving 4 injections in a day, and that was not elevating their GHKCU the same magnitude of our one patch, which is so much easier than injections.
Yeah.
Peptides are kind of a big deal right now, and they're all the rage, right? And that's why, of course, they're getting taken off the market, and they're very hard to get now, and they're harder to find, because they are so impactful and fabulous. And there are some creams with GHKCU in them. I mean, but it isn't it's pretty safe. Like it's like you can ask your doctor, how do you feel about light therapy? Their doctor is not going to say light therapy is a problem. They're
Yeah.
not going to say like
Well, you
go
never,
get salad,
you
right?
never
It's
know. Yeah.
fine.
You never know nowadays. They might say, well, we don't know how it might interfere with the medication and yada yada. But no, it's true. Like it's again, we've been indoctrinated to only see medicine and health in a certain way,
Yeah.
rather than, well, how do I work with my own biology? And like I said, that's the whole reason why I created this podcast is, okay, be curious about your own biology and how can you work with it and amplify it. I want to bring you into a reflective question. So you've heard my podcast, so you know what I'm going to ask. Um,
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you to bring your awareness right now and go back to your 18-year-old self. And
Yeah.
you have 3 words to tell your 18-year-old self to bring you to the journey of right now. What would those words be?
Yeah, I've actually thought a lot about this question because I have listened to enough of your podcast to know that this was coming. And it's really trust animal brain, trust your animal, trust my animal brain, really. I did not know about the animal brain as a young person. And so all the red flags that I saw and felt, the hairs on the back of my neck, the things I talked myself out of or let myself be lied to and convinced of along the way, I didn't honor them. And I wish I would have known the power of my animal brain and trusted it way more than my prefrontal cortex, because it's so much smarter than my prefrontal cortex. So I absolutely think, I think if that would have happened, I would not have been in my first 2 relationships with my first 2 husbands. And I think that would have been very life-changing for me if I would have understood. So if there are any 18-year-olds, study and learn about your animal brain, because it is so smart, and listen to it very carefully, because it knows when you don't know. And whether that's just someone on an alley or in the store or whatever it might be, trust your instincts, because that intuition and your instincts are so powerful, and we just don't give it enough credit.
Yeah, the intuition, the instincts. Are you willing to share what your intention was in the meditation?
Sure, I really hoped to touch and help someone, anyone, people, you and others, with their mental and physical health, through the patching. I just hope to touch someone and help them, that they would be compelled to reach out and try, because I just know, I'm on the other side, right? I know the difference it can make. And there are so many people hurting, even people with very serious mental health issues, veterans I mean, there's just not enough ways we can support them. They give so much. So yeah, I just hope that people reach out and they try, and they then get to experience such improvement in their mental and physical health.
Thank you so much for sharing the space and sharing your light with everybody.
Well, and thank you,
I,
Nat. Thank you not only for having me on, but thank you for all of your podcasts, for all of the energy and time that you put into sharing with the world. You give a gift every day. And I don't know if you get enough thanks for that. So I just want to be one to thank you.
I appreciate that. And thank you for using the alchemy in your life and sharing that gold with everybody else. You didn't just keep it for yourself, you're sharing it out. So thank you for doing that. And, walking the path of the vulnerability of joy and grief, being that lived experience and modeling to people the way it can look. So thank you for that, Darlene.
That's very gracious.
Please remember to be kind to yourself.
Yes,
Hey, you made it all the way here. I appreciate you and your time. If you found value in this conversation, please share it out. If there was somebody that popped into your mind, take action and share it out with them. It possibly may not be them that will benefit. It's that they know somebody that will benefit from listening to this conversation. So please take action and share out the podcast. You can find us on social media on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok under Lift Oneself. And if you want to inquire about the work that I do and the services that I provide to people, come over on my website, come into a discovery call, liftoneself.com. Until next time, please remember to be kind and gentle with yourself. You matter.